as I mentioned once before, I am bi, and I noticed there's a lack of bi-ness in the material I usually review. It usually swings one way or the other. There's not a lot of Hannah Montana, the best of both worlds. So today I shall discuss one of my favorite adult animations that is bi. Hello everyone, Ren here, or Alias, and this animation is called Seduced by My Best Friend, or by My Best Friend, by Orishima Yupopo. In Japanese, the Japanese title would be Kuro ga Ninata ka Shinyu to Shitemita. I hope I pronounced that right. And the story follows our two protagonists, Rui, black-haired guy with white skin, and Shion, blonde-haired guy with darker skin. And they're both womanizers, and the first scene we have is both of them at the beach picking up women. And Shion shows his car to a woman, and he's like, hey, do you want to see the rest? He pulls his trunks down, and, we see the top of his pubic area, and then he's like, let's go somewhere more private. And as they're leaving, a mysterious woman approaches, and she's like, Shion, I'll get my revenge. And she's holding a bottle of pills. Then they get to the showers, and the girl's like, oh, I got a call from my boyfriend, I gotta dip. And Shion's like, your boyfriend? Like, what the fuck? He was like, oh, okay. But he's like, alright, I'm gonna freshen up, then I'm gonna link up with Rui. That's when this woman approaches him, and tells him, now you'll see what it feels to be a woman. And then he knocks out, he wakes up, he has boobs. He does what any guy would do. Checks for his dick. It's no longer there. And he's like, damn, I gotta find Rui. And it's like, oh, but if I find Rui like this, he'll think I'm just a deranged woman. Luckily, Rui walks in. And then he's like, hey, I recognize those trunks. You just had sex with Shion, didn't you? And Shion's like, yeah, I did. Then Rui's like, kinda like flirting, becoming the Whistler, as the kiddies would say. And he's like, hey, how about you have, how about we do it and you see and compare to see who is better. And then Rui touches, Rui gets closer, touches Shion's belly. And then he's like, wait, that's Scar. You're Shion. You turn into a girl. And she was like, yeah. And Rui, being the homie, he gets his inner Mr. Incredible out and says, well, ass is ass. And then they start kissing and they do the deed. The next scene, we cut to them cuddling in bed, and Rui is, fondling Shion's breasts. Because, it do be like that. And we don't know if they live in two separate apartments, but they only have one bed in this apartment, so the implication would be that even as guys, they just slept on the same bed. Which I find kind of funny. So then, after, Rui wouldn't stop basically, touching Shion gets mad. He's like, hey, don't just enjoy this, help me find a cure for this. And then Shion storms off to the club to, blow up some steam. Oh, it was also promised, I forgot to mention that, before the transition, Rui told Shion, I'll help you find a cure for this, but on the condition that you'll be my woman from now on. Now, back to the present. Shion goes to the club, and there's these two guys who, kinda try to have their way with him. With, I guess, her at this moment. And Rui shows up and is like, hey, hands off on my woman, or do you want me to call the cops? He takes him back to the hotel, and Rui's called Shion. He's like, you're no longer a dude, you're a girl. These things can't happen to girls, you shouldn't run off like that alone. And then, Shion apologizes for storming off. And Rui's like, hey, you're cute, you gotta remember that. And Shion gets happy that, he got called cute by Rui. And then they Rui starts, touching Shion, which, a bit rushed. Like, come on, bro. Shion almost got unconsensually touched. Like, maybe slow it down a little. But then, in the middle of it, Shion turns into a guy. But Rui, the homie, again invokes Mr. Incredible and says, ass is ass. And, they do stuff together. Not the deed, not the full deed, just rubbing each other if you catch my drift. I'm trying not to get demonetized. So after they do the deed, Rui, and they're both male, Rui shows a picture of a girl to Shion. He's like, hey, let's go back to the beach now that you're a guy. Like, there's this girl that, she told me she's your type and she's interested in you, being the homie. But in the middle of it, Shion turns into a girl again. Because the plot needed to move forward, I guess. Then, after this happens, Rui is like, I may know someone who may be able to help you with this. And Shion is like, why didn't you mention it before? And Rui's like, it's because I don't really like the guy. And she's like, please, talk to him for me. Help me get out of this. And Rui's like, fine, I'll do it. But on the condition that you buy girl clothes. Like, you can no longer just go around in dude's clothes with no bra and no panties. And then they're like, okay, fair enough. They go clothes shopping, and Shion is getting dressed. And they do stuff in the dressing room. Not the deed again, just rubbing. And then the lady is like, hey, are you a couple? And they both get flustered, like, oh, are we a couple? Like, we're best friends, but there's this weird energy we have between us because of this whole situation. So they don't know if they're a couple or not. This is what starts the whole flame of like, do we actually like each other? Then the next day, as promised, they go see the scientist. And the scientist basically tells them like, hey, so this drug, we don't know who made it, we don't know how to reverse it. But basically, whenever you get excited, you turn into a girl. And then he's like, but after some time, you should turn back into a guy. Like, there's a time limit on this. There's a time limit, like, per day of this. And Shion's like, is there a way I can avoid it completely? And the professor's like, well, you could just try not getting excited. And then Shion's like, oh, that's impossible, and all this stuff, But that's how the curse works. Whenever Shion gets excited, he turns into a girl. Then they walk around their university, and they run into this girl that likes Rui. The girl's like, hey, Rui, would you like to go on a date? And Shion realizes he feels some jealousy when other women talk to Rui. Planting that relationship, feelings for each other seed. And Rui, the Gigacha, is like, no, sorry. And then, they do the deed fully. And then Shion turns back into a guy, and he's like, I just have to abstain and not get excited, and I'll totally be fine. Then Shion, that night, he's like, I'ma just go to a bar to see if I can control my urges. And coincidentally, Rui goes to the same bar. And Shion sees that Rui is like about to kiss a girl, and gets in between. He's like, oh, Rui, what's up? And then Rui's like, hey, don't get in the way, this is my thing. Shion's like, oh, sorry, I'll get going. Then he's all depressed on the stairs, and he's like, why did I do that? Now I'm feeling depressed, and I felt like I did something cringe. And Rui approached him and was like, hey, I just wanted to ask you something. Like, you got the wrong idea. It's like, also, why did you do that? And Shion's like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, hey, let's go back to I have a hotel nearby, let's talk there. Then, at this hotel, they start making out both as male, like kissing and stuff. And Shion's like, wait, why am I feeling this way? I'm not in woman mode, so maybe I do have feelings no matter what happens. And then Rui does some stuff in Shion, not with his thing, but with his hands. So I wouldn't normally mention this, but there's some plot relevance. So just know he used fingers in him. So Shion so then they talk some more and they get into an argument because Shion told Rui, hey, I can have sex with whoever I want, you're not the best. And Rui's like, hey, Rui says like, hey, you shouldn't joke about that, like I have feelings only for you, like I haven't seen anyone else since we started doing this thing. Then he tells, hey, if you want to figure this out, figure it out yourself, like I'm out of here. Because it hurt his feelings. Because Shuin wasn't feeling loyal to Rui, even though he was being super loyal. Shion, on his he's on his he's on his apartment, like he's like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I shouldn't have said that. Why is he upset? Why do I have these feelings even though I'm not in woman mode? He's like, I can't sleep. I gotta do what guys do when they can't sleep, you know. And he does that, but he does what Rui did to him with, you know, the fingers. And when he's about to be finished with what he's doing, Rui pops into his mind. He's like, oh, why did I think of him when I was doing this? Like, this makes no sense. And then, as he's done with it, he turns into a woman. Then he's like, I gotta figure out what to do with this. So he goes see the professor that's been helping them, and they go out and about to talk to women that Shion has dated. And he runs into the girl that like Ryu, the one in the college, the one that was like, hey, can we go out on a date? And this girl tells Shion, because he's in girl mode, she's like, he obviously likes you. He doesn't stop talking about you. Like, he obviously likes you. The way he looks at you is not the way he sees any other girls. And you're just too stupid to see that for yourself. And you know, Shion is like, does he really like me? And the girl's like, yes, you absolute mongoloid. Because, you know, rom-coms in anime, everybody has to be denser than tungsten. And as they're walking around, Rui spots Shion talking to the professor. But he didn't recognize the professor because the professor was in like a suit and tie with his hair different, you know, dressed up nicely. And then, you know, he grabs Shion's hand and he's like, drags him to an alley, and Shion is like, hey, you're hurting me, like, please let go. And Rui's like, sorry. He's like, I just got jealous because you were with the other guy. And he confronts his feelings. He's like, I have feelings for you. And she's like, I don't know if I have feelings for you because I'm a woman or because I'm a guy. And I don't know if you like me because I'm a woman or I'm a guy. And Rui, you know, pulls out the Giga Chat energy. He's like, I like you for you. I'll have sex with you as a woman or as a guy. It doesn't matter to me. You know, ass is ass, and I like you for you. The Giga Chat. And he's like, I have a hotel nearby. I'll have sex with you now, and when you turn into a guy afterwards, I'll have sex with you then. And he does exactly that. At the hotel, they do the deed. Shion turns into a guy. They do the deed again. But something funny I want to point out is that when he did the deed with Shion the first time, he didn't wear protection and he finished inside, you know, like they both didn't know if he turned into a girl permanently or something like that. That would have been really, really risky. But when he did the deed as both male, he used protection. And, you know, fair enough, you should always use protection when having, you know, intimacy. But at this point, you've done it like raw so many times. And you'll know each other, and you'll know each other is clean. Why use it, you know? It doesn't make too much sense. One nitpick. Then Shion wakes up, he's a guy, and then he thinks of Rui, and he turns into a girl. Because he got excited. He's like, why did I turn into a girl? I didn't have a dirty dream. He was like, that scientist must have been wrong. Then he thinks, wait. He didn't say I had to be turned on. He just said I had to be excited. And he realized, oh, I get excited when I think of Rui. That's what I am. That's why I keep turning into a girl. And Rui wakes up. And he's like, hey, I see you had a wet dream. Tell me about it. And he starts cuddling her. He's like, was it a harem of girls on your past or stuff like that? And she was like, I'm not telling. And then the episode ends. We only have one episode of this, sadly. You know, it is what it is. That's the industry of the adult animations. But there is a manga by the same name, and it's still ongoing to this day. To this day, he's still printing out chapters. It is insane. This is an old, you know, BL It is not BL. This bisexual series, and it's still ongoing. I have read, some chapters, and I'm not gonna spoil them because I just wanted to go as far as the animation went. Also, this wasn't a short animation. This was 40 minutes. This is a The Boys episode, and it did cover a lot of ground, and it was pretty well animated. So I recommend you check out this or the manga if you're above the age of 18, of course. You read the title. You knew you had to be 18. So, highly recommend. Highly recommend reading the manga if you want to know how the relationship develops, because it does develop really, really nice. And well, this has been all. This has been Ren, or Alias. Bye-bye.